Lord Tremendous here, got a battle report here for you. 2,000 point battle. 'Tis I, Lord Tremendous of the Ogres, versus Big Tom of the Elf armies. I know, he seems like such a stand-up guy, and then he plays those weedy knife ears. I don't get it either, but we throw down. I bring my big fatty back Ogres. And I'm going to try to crush as many of these pompous, self-righteous sons of elves as I can before I either get tabled or run out of time. Because if there's one thing you need to know about this channel, we're races against elves. Well, I'm races against elves. Proudly, I would go to a rally saying all elves must die. Happily. Because they're a horrible, horrible race. And they've never done anything for any society they've ever been a part of. Screw elves. I hate them. So, so this is actually a very one-sided game, so feel free to sit back, relax, and enjoy how it goes. Here's my list, and it's a trial list, you know, it's a first draft, so it's gonna have some problems. I have a captain on a chariot with the diadem of dragonkind, I've got an army standard with the healing charm, and then two boomer sergeants, one with the scrying amulet and one with the inspiring talisman. Went with the captain on the chair because the idea was to get behind enemy lines, maybe get into some war machines or whatnot, and he's got 10 breath weapons, so that should help him out. The healing charm, I'm sorry, on the army standards just so he has something to do, because God, they're awful otherwise. And the two boomer sergeants are just there because I wanted the scrying amulet. And I know, I could probably just throw it on a unit that I don't have an item on anyway, but I don't think like that. And then the other boomer sergeant has the inspiring talisman, so I have some inspirational coverage throughout my army. Really, the idea with those guys are they're the cheapest way to go, and they come with a little ranged attack, so they could do a little something. I'm trying stuff here. I'm not saying it's good ideas. For the rest of the army, I've got a unit of Berserker Braves, Horde formation with the Blessing of the Gods. I mean, they got 30 attacks, but they hit on 4s, so I figured rerolling 1s would be pretty useful. I got a second unit of Berserker Braves, also in Horde formation, with the Chant of Hate, because, you know, you can't get Blessing of the Gods twice. And then I've got a unit of Siege Breakers, Horde formation with Fire Oil, because I had 5 points left over at the end, and another Siege Breaker unit in Horde formation, and they're butt naked. And I like the Siege Breakers because they've got the big shield rule, and Defense 6 compared to Defense 5, there's such a huge difference. You wouldn't think so, just one number, but it's such a big difference. And I like the Berserker Braves because they get 30 flippin' attacks. But, well, you'll see how that goes. For the rest of my army, I've got a Mammoth with a Ballista on him, just because I really like having monsters. He's on the wrong-sized base. But I don't care. I like him. I'm going to take him. And I did. I have a Giant, also on the wrong-sized base, but I just like the idea. And I have a Red Goblin Blaster, because this is probably one of the coolest units in the entire game that I've been encountering something that I've run into, used, whichever. So, yeah, that's it for my list. It's, like I said, it's a first draft. I know you're all rolling your eyes right now, but you're not wrong. But it's just for fun. I'm learning. But that's going to do it for my list. I'm going to post my opponent's list, play some music. Feel free to pause whenever you like to see what he took. I forgot to take a picture of deployment. I was excited to play the game, so here's top of one after movement. You'll figure it out. You're smart people. I'm not worried. But anyway, my opponent went first, so the Elves actually come thundering forward pretty solid there, and that surprised me. I won't lie. Ogres have a hell of a movement value, and I'm thinking, wow, I'm gonna be able to get some charges off on these guys. He's tired of life. And then I realize, well, what he's really doing, but we'll figure that out. You'll figure that out later. I already know because I've seen what happens. But on the left, right there, his Drakon Rider, not Dragon Kindred, but Drakon Rider shoots down the left flank, and I think he's going after my Berserker Braves on the left side there. He's got a unit with Pathfinder, Cavalry right there, right up to the obstacle with the Force of Nature, Beast of Nature, something like that. The Bear, again, right behind the obstacle. In the dead center, his archers come forward, his big old legion of archers, or whatever the hell they are, they come forward to shoot at my stuff. And then the right flank there is other stuff. I think Palace Guard, Dragon Kindred, and I can't remember what the other unit's called. Naiads and Snarers, maybe. They come thundering down too, daring me to come after him. And I'm excited because I've got my Red Goblin Blaster right there. I'm going to fire it forward 10 inches and let them charge me. And then I'm going to blow them all to hell and hopefully be able to charge next turn. That would be great. On the right flank, another unit of Cav are coming up to the forest there. I don't think they have Pathfinder, but they're going to try to come through the forest. So I'm thinking I'm going to send my Siege Breakers up to meet them. And then he's got his other Drakon Rider shooting down to meet my character on a chariot, my captain on a chariot. And that's it for his movement. We go into the shooting magic phase, or as I like to call it, the pansy phase, and his archers open up on my mammoth, doing only 2 wounds. Needless to say, he passes his nerve check, no problem. And that's it. So, I mean, nothing else happens in his turn. So we go over here to bottom of 1 after movement. And I don't go forward a whole hell of a lot because I realize he's got Cav that can really outpace me. And I'm not ready to be charged yet, especially double charged or anything crazy like that. So I back some of my stuff up in the center. Pretty much everything backs up with the exception of the Red Goblin Blaster. He fires forward because I want everything to charge me. I know his dragons got me dead to rights, but what can you do? On the left flank there, my Berserker guys, Berserker Braves, they kind of angle a little bit, trying to get the Drakon Rider to charge him, because that's where I think he's going. You'll see what happens there. I do bring up my Standard Bearer, just so that they have Inspiring, just in case he rolls out of the box. On the right flank there, my Siege Breakers, they just kind of angle themselves a little funny so that if the Drakon Rider decides to go into them, they can take it and possibly even allow the captain to countercharge. And the captain pretty much stays put because I'm stupid and should have moved him closer. What can you do? But that's really it for movement. We go into the pansy phase, and since I got the ballista on the mammoth, I fire it off at his Dragon Kindred, and I actually hit the guy, and I end up doing 2 solid wounds to him. It doesn't affect him in the slightest because he's like a 20, 30, or whatever the hell his nerve test is, but it's high enough that this minor scratch barely registers. And that brings us to top of 2 after movement, because I wasn't aggressive like I should have been, and I blame you. So my opponent, though, he's aggressive as hell. His cavalry and his Drakon Rider are both in range and charge me all day. His Beast of Nature charges my Army Standard guy, who I thought I was blocking with, but I'm stupid and can't see angles. Yeah, so he gets into me no problem. On the right side there, he takes the bait, and his Palace Guard and his Naiads charge into the Red Goblin Blaster, and that's fine. He's going to do a ton of wounds to him, and it's going to explode and hopefully really do a lot of damage to those guys. His Dragon Kindred goes off into the forest just to put some pressure on the Siege Breakers, and then the other Cav kind of goes around, or goes through the forest, and then turns to face the Siege Breakers, and his other Drakon Rider slams into my captain. That's it for movement. During the pansy phase, his mage runs over and casts heal on his dragon, fixing both wounds I put on him earlier, which was discouraging, but maybe I should shoot at the mage. His archers take careful aim at my mammoth again and put 4 more wounds on him. They've got his range, and he's in a lot of trouble now. Unfortunately, he's also rolling really, really high, and my mammoth is now wavered, which is just god-awful. 6 wounds and he wavers. We're going to have to talk to this big meat shield soon. So then we go into the best phase of the game, which is combat. Unfortunately, it's all elf combat. And the Drakon Rider probably his first fight in his whole life. He's all eager, he's all excited, and he puts 5 wounds on my cowardly captain. I don't know why they bother calling characters heroes in this game, because 5 wounds later, he's wavered. Maybe it's just my heroes. Maybe it's just me. It's a very good possibility. I am bad at this game, but I'm loving it. It's just hilarious to me. They're not heroes. They're not heroes at all. At least not mine. My opponent's character was amazing. And yeah, so my captain is now wavered after taking 5 wounds because he's a big fat idiot. Over here, yeah, it's the worst parts of the Bible. Both units attack. The one in the flank gets mucho attacks. 5, 10, 15, 16 wounds. Which, honestly, with the amount of attacks he threw at me, is kind of low. But it's more than enough to break this poor bastard. Like I said, he does rout, and when a red goblin blaster routs, he explodes. Which is fantastic because, yeah, he's dead. It's fine. It's 65 points to my opponent. I miss his mage by just a little bit, but both his Palace Guard and his Naiad units take 9 wounds. I think the Palace Guard took 9, and the Naiads, I think they both took 9 wounds. I did 9 hits, and I didn't roll a 1 once. It was beautiful. 18 dice, no 1s. That'll never happen again. So I was very pleased with how this worked out. Per the rules, he has to take a nerve check, and the Palace Guard waver. The Naiads are fine, but the Guard waver, and that couldn't have gone any better. Well, that's not true. If he had been within charge range, that would have been better, but it is what it is. Now, we weren't really sure how this worked, so after that was all said and done, we decided, okay, no idea how this is supposed to work since it's so out of sequence. So we decided that it was the right thing to do to let him do his follow-up movement after the combat. So that's why his wavered unit moved forward and the Naiads reformed. If that's wrong, tell me in the comment section. If that's right, tell me in the comment section. How do you handle that? Because that's actually very weird, and we couldn't find any rules to really flesh it out for us. In this combat, the bear only does a few wounds to the Boomer Sergeant, which I'm actually very surprised about. My opponent rolled really bad for his hitting and wounding here. To prove my point, he proceeds to roll Snake Eyes for the nerve test. Not that he needed it, but hey, you know what? I'll take it. Then my opponent takes us into this combat, and they do 11 wounds to my Berserker Braves. You know, you would think that a unit, especially a Horde unit, could take 11 wounds. And, to be honest, would be wrong, because even with the reroll, he routs that unit with a -18 nerve check. Painful. Painful how bad that just went for me. But, well played by my opponent, what can you do? And he just kind of changed their directional facing afterwards, and as you can see, I can't see them to countercharge. Outplayed since deployment. So, that takes us over to bottom of 2 after movement, and I really don't have a whole lot. I'm completely outplayed, completely outmaneuvered, and honestly, just, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Looking around like, oh, yep, screwed. So, my Berserker Braves on the left flank, they start running around the house as fast as they can, because they're really out of position. My other unit of Siege Breakers in the middle there, they go after the Beast of Nature, because they have a better shot at it than anything else. The Boomer Sergeant moves out of the way just to make it possible. My Mammoth is screwed. There's no way I can get far enough away from the cavalry to make a difference, and I want to try to shoot at his guys, but I can't because he's wavered, so he just backs up a few inches because that's really the only choice he has, and just accepts the fact that he's going to get flank charged. I do move the Army Sergeant to try to stop that, but we'll see. I'm pretty sure the Dracon's in range, but whatever. We'll figure out what happens. In the middle, the Giant goes into the Naiads because I didn't know what else to do with him. I just completely, I realize here and now I'm beat. And so I'm just trying to learn now. I'm like, screw it. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to kill as many elves as I can, because if even one dies, I win. And then on the far right side, my Siege Breakers are able to get into the Dracon unit, and hopefully, since it's a flank and everything like that, we'll be able to kill at least one elf this game. And my useless captain sits there because he's got more crap in his pants than brains in his head. That's it for my movement phase. We go into the pansy phase, and both boomer sergeants fire into the cavalry, just trying to put as many wounds on him as I can. And honestly, it's only 8 shots total. I end up doing 3 wounds, so not terrible. I'm not going to be upset about that. Needless to say, they're perfectly fine with their nerve check, but at least they're bleeding a little bit. And then we dive into combat because I'm playing a real man's army. Yes, I'm going to talk trash the entire battle report. It's all I got. Anyway, my siege breakers throw double their attacks into this son of a gun on a stupid Drakon or Eagle or whatever the hell you want to call it, and we do 17 wounds to him. That's how you break elf necks, with 17 flippin' wounds. I do not roll snake eyes, and the little bastard routs, which is good. All mass murders have to start with that first kill. I then spin my siege breakers around to accept the charge from where I think is coming, which is the cavalry. I'm not sure, but I think the dragon kindred is in range as well, and I don't see it. Like I said, I'm very bad at this game because I haven't had that many games of it. This is what, Battle Report 7, so maybe I've had 10 games, and I've never been good at these games to begin with, so... but I'm really enjoying it, so that's what my mindset was when I spun them around like that. I go into this combat over here with the Giant versus the Naiads, and the Dice Gods decide they don't like me anymore. I think I had 8 or 9 attacks, and I only end up wounding with 3. Yeah, with hitting and wounding, it wasn't happening for Mr. Giant, and they only take 3 more wounds. They were at 9. I think they're at 12 now, and it's just not as good as I was hoping it was going to be. They pass their nerve test, and I have to back the Giant up, which is probably not a good look for him at all. This combat, it's 18 attacks with siege breakers and 7 wounds? I guess it could have been worse. And that's when I find out that this thing has like a 20-23 nerve check. This monster is a monster. He should be on a bigger than 50 mil base. I think this is very misleading, and I'm writing my congressman and Mantic. They will both ignore me because they should, but wow! So we back off an inch, and my entire horde brick of siege breakers were stopped by a beast of nature. Wow! That's it for my turn, so here we are in top of 3 after movement, and the elves are pissed. On the left side there, the cavalry go after my sergeant. The Drakon rider that's left goes after the mammoth. I believe the beast of nature goes over to the sergeant. I'm not really sure how he charged that. I don't know. It probably made more sense at the time. In the middle there, his palace guard, they changed direction because they were wavered during his last turn. But his naiads and his dragon kindred slam into my giant, and that's pretty much the end of him. And then his cavalry charge into my siege breakers, which I actually feel pretty good about. I'm thinking they're going to be able to take that charge, but we'll find out. And really, that's it for his movement. His archers in the back just stay still. During his pansy phase, his mage runs over, and he tries to heal the naiads, but then we realize that they're allies and he can't do that, which I'm really glad we caught because, whoops. But instead, he fires off his heal spell on the palace guard and only heals 1 wound, so now they're down to 8. His archers fire off at my siege breakers, and even though he needed like 6 or 5s, I think he had piercing 1, he's able to do 7 wounds to them. Absolutely inconceivable. He rolled so far out of the box, it was like in a whole different dimension. It broke my heart. 7 wounds, and they're wavered. It's just the way the game's going. Just the way the game's going. I cannot catch a break. Don't get me wrong. I know my opponent is outplaying me just through sheer skill, but the dice gods are definitely favoring his skill. It is what it is. And then we go into combat. So he starts off with his Beast of Nature in the flank of my army sergeant. 14 attacks, he wounds with 10, leaving this moron with 13 wounds. That is more than enough to rout him, and the Beast of Nature spends the rest of this turn munching on Boomer, which, hey, good for him. He does shoot straight forward to just get out of my counter charge arc, and that's it. He's beaten me once again. In this combat, the cavalry ride me down for 7 wounds, and if I've learned anything from my siege breakers, is that 7 is the magic number. Although, I totally expect this guy to die, because he's not nearly as nervy as my siege breakers. And my expectations did not fall short. He broke and ran, and probably got ran down, because that was a lot of damage. So, yeah, I'm gonna need another Boomer Sergeant after this game. The cavalry turn around to face my siege breakers because they're wavered next turn, and he knows he has them because it's not like they're going to be able to do anything else. I get a little lucky over in this combat, though, as Drakon Rider's only able to do 3 wounds to my Mammoth, even though he doubled his attacks. So, okay, I'll hold on to hope while hope is good. And all is right with the universe because my Mammoth holds strong, and his Drakon Rider backs the hell off. Oh, my poor giant. My poor giant. After all is said and done, he takes 14 wounds, which, I mean, considering he took, what, 20 attacks from the Dragon Kindred and 25 attacks from the Naiads, not terrible. Not terrible at all, but still dreadfully painful. This poor bastard routs, and I can't blame him at all. Not his fault. I threw him into a combat that I thought he would do better in, and in the end, he just became more food for the dragon. Afterwards, the dragon just kind of turns around and faces the other direction, and the Naiads stay right where they're at. Last but not least, the cavalry slam into my siege breakers, and finally, the big shields work. He's only able to do 5 wounds to him, and thankfully, because the captain is still inspiring, they stick around. They're not wavered, they're not routed, and hopefully they can beat the ever-loving crap out of the cavalry next turn. I'm hoping. That takes us to bottom of 3 after movement, and there's not a lot because most of the Ogres are dead or dying. Why not? I send both my captain and my siege breakers into the cavalry on the right flank there because, hey, I might as well kill elves while the killing is good. I send my mammoth into the palace guard because I'm thinking they've already got 8 wounds on him. If this mammoth can do some serious damage to him, and he has a very good chance to do so, I should be able to rout him. I can move forward another 6 inches or so, well, d6 inches. Yeah, maybe I catch the Naiads in the flank, maybe I don't, but at least the palace guard will be dead, and that's something. And maybe he holds. Maybe the Naiads don't do a whole lot to him. I don't know. But it's all I got, you know? In the middle there with the wavered friggin' siege breakers because they took 7 shooting hits, or shooting wounds, and became wavered. Ugh. They just change direction and face the cavalry. They're going to run them down because they're useless. I send my army standard forward to try to use a healing charm on them so they have a chance when they get charged. And then my way out of position berserkers come around a little bit more from that house to face off on the beast of nature, and that's it for my movement. In the pansy phase, my standard bearer throws a band-aid at the siege breakers and heals 1 wound on them. So that leaves them with 6. Not sexy. Not sexy at all. And then we go into the combat phase. The mammoth kicks it off with its attacks, and I'm able to do 8 wounds to the palace guard, bringing them up to 16. Fingers crossed! And it works. They rout and they're dead, and that's great. More dead elves. I'm so happy. Meanwhile, I kind of measure it real quick, and if I were to shoot forward, even if I went forward 6 inches, the Naiads would still have my flank. That's what I get for using the wrong base size, so, oh well. So the only thing I can do that's, in my opinion, smart, probably not, is I turn to face the Naiads. They're going to charge me in the front and probably rout my mammoth. Also, by turning like this, the Drakon Rider can see, I think, my rear, possibly my flank. Either way, it's got me and it's got range. I'm starting to realize I have no answer for flyers. Well, this is how we learn. This is how we learn. In combat over here, this is spectacular. The combined attacks of the siege breakers and the captain are able to do 11 wounds to this cavalry. So essentially 12 because I have brutal, but that's awesome. They did so great. The cavalry routs, which is fantastic, and then my siege breaker and captain both just change direction to look at the dragon kindred that's coming their way probably next turn. Bad. That brings us to top of 4, and oh god. So, right to left, the Dragon Kindred slams into my Siege Breakers, and I'm really hoping that the defense 6 helps, but I think he's got like -4 to my armor, so I'm screwed. In the middle, the Naiads and the Drakon Rider slam into the Mammoth, and you know what? The Mammoth killed some elves, so I'm pleased with him. The Cavalry slam into my gutless, cowardly Siege Breakers in the middle there, and I believe his Beast of Nature slams into my Berserker Braves that have spent the entire game trying to get around a house. That is it for his movement. In the pansy phase, his elves fire a volley off at my army standard bearer, and he actually only takes 1 wound. I got lucky as hell. So, yeah, he makes his nerve check without routing, and I was as surprised as you were. Had he been an orc, he probably would have routed. And that brings us to delicious, delicious combat. Now, I apologize. I don't know why the pictures got fuzzy here all of a sudden. Maybe it was all the fail on my side of the table that blurred the pictures, but they did. So I'll try to describe a little bit more what happened. In combat with the Beast of Nature against my Berserker Braves, he does 3 solid wounds to him, which, considering how much he did to my standard, or my Boomer Sergeant, I'll take it. They pass their nerve check and he bounces off. So awesome. Maybe these guys can kill this damn monster. This combat is absolutely horrible. These guys, they didn't use their shields. I'm telling you, I know they're supposed to have defense 6, but there's no way. They do like 12 wounds to me. You can see the wounds over on the right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 wounds or something like that. Plus the 6 they already have. What is going on? And you're damn straight they rout. Holy crap! It was like all the ogres that made up my center were just like the newest, cowardliest group we could possibly have recruited. It hurts my heart. Foaming at the mouth for more, they turn in place to face my army standard, and you know what? I might just give him. Oh, my poor Mammoth. He takes 8 or 9 more wounds total, which, again, considering how many attacks he just had swung at him, is not terrible. Unfortunately, he's already carrying like 9 wounds, so it's like 17 or 18 total. Not sexy. The poor meaty bastard routs, and honestly, he was probably murdered. I really do. If I was going to continue playing the ogres on a regular, I would move him off of that base onto a regular base, or at least an appropriately sized base, but I'm just learning with this army. I'm putting together a Varangur army, and once that's done, I'll play that instead of the ogres. So, until then, the Mammoth will stay on the incredibly too big base. This combat doesn't go as terrible. He's got 10 attacks, but he's only able to do 4 wounds with them, which, honestly, I was expecting 7. So, I've got hope. And that hope is dashed when they become wavered, even with the reroll. Come on, Siege Breakers, I need you to man up. That brings us to the bottom of 4, and I really don't have any answers here. My captain moves up. He can't charge because the Siege Breakers are in the way, so he comes around the side to breathe hot death on this perfectly healed dragon. That's really it. I think my Braves move around to look at the Cav. My Army Standard moves up to try to heal some wounds off of the Braves before it's all said and done, and I think that's it for my movement. Oh, shame. In the Pansy phase, he throws his healing charm at that unit, and 1 wound pops off of him, which I guess is better than nothing. My captain takes aim at the dragon and uses his breath weapon, and is able to do 2 wounds to it. Would have been better had those 2 wounds from earlier still been on him, but it wouldn't have changed anything, and he passes his nerve check easily. That brings us into combat. Sorry, I missed the fact that my Braves went back into the Beast of Nature. And I do 6 more wounds to this thing, causing him to go up to 13, I believe, something along those lines. And it works! I pop another one of the dirty, dirty elf. Oh, it's an ally this time, but I'll take it! That's what he gets for hanging out with knife ears. Ha ha! And I just back up like an inch. I don't want the Cav to be able to swing past and get me no problem, but I think they're able to anyway because, you know, I didn't back up all that far. Anyway, that was the idea. So here's top of 5 after movement. The dragon slams back into my siege breakers. Nothing I could do about that. We both know they're dead. The Rakon Rider and the Cav charge into my... I'm sorry, the Rakon Rider charges into my army standard. The Cav charges into my Braves, and his archers and his Naiads come over to watch the fight. That's it for movement. There's nothing for him to do in his pansy phase, so we go straight into combat, and his Cav eat me alive. They've got the banner with Pathfinder. We were using the terrain around the house as difficult, so that might have affected him, but no, he's got that potion of the Caterpillar, so they're Pathfinder, they're not hindered. And he proceeds to beat my poor Braves to a pulp, doing 4, 8, 9 wounds to him. Carrying the 2, that's 11. Ah, why that number? And he routs them dead. Cannot fault my opponent for outplaying me since deployment. Over here, his little goon does 7 wounds to my standard guy for a total of 8. But he doesn't rout. The standard guy trips over his own fortitude and wavers only. So the way I see it, he runs into the house pissing himself. Now the elves gotta drag him out and kill him. Still, it's inconvenient for them, so I'm gonna take that as a victory. In this combat over here, my poor siege breakers, the only unit really worth a damn. They take 5 more wounds from the dragon. He's starting to get where they're at, and that's a lot of wounds. I will not blame them if they rout. And they rout big time, which it's disappointing. What can you do? But it was coming. They held as long as they could, and they did take out a unit of Cav, so I'm pleased with that. That drags me over to bottom of 5 after movement, and I don't have any. My captain just kind of faces off on the dragon, and my army standard just stands there like, I'm not coming out of the house! Go away! That's it for movement. We go straight into combat because there's nothing else for me to do, and I'm able to put 4 wounds on his dragon. He's only got 5 attacks. So I think maybe the captain heard me talking trash about him or something, and he actually did really well doing 4 wounds to this thing. With a little luck, I can waver it by rolling like an 18 or something. But no, the Dragon Kindred takes it in stride and is perfectly fine. My captain backs off an inch, and it's all over but the crying. We go in the top of 6, and it's real easy. The Cav and the Drakon Rider slam into my poor army standard that's hiding out in the house. I know he's not really in the house, but I like the visual. And his Dragon Kindred slams into my captain. The other 2 units just sit there and trade war stories, because why not? That's it for movement. We go into combat because there's nothing else for my opponent to do. And look at this coward. He pulls my poor army standard out of the house for no reason and puts 14 wounds on him. Oh, it was so R-rated. And he dies. I'm not even going to say that he got routed. They straight stapled him to the side of that house. There was nothing I could do but laugh. Over here, the Dragon Rider puts 8 wounds onto my captain, which is a shame because I think that puts him at like 13 total, and his nerve is garbage. Which routs my character. I mean, honestly, I was disappointed in my captain for being useless most of this game, but at the end, he did pull off some kind of funny things with the breath weapon and wounding the dragon with 4 out of his 5 attacks. But I'm starting to think that he's a huge waste of points. Really doesn't fill any holes in my army, but this was a cool way to end the game. And there it is, there's the end of the game, and as you can obviously see, there is an abundance of elf on the table and no sign of the ogres. Maybe it's the one that's stapled to the door, but other than that, yeah. I think it's pretty apparent what happened here. I was outplayed. It's not the dice fault, it's not the army composition fault. I was outplayed, and I should be upset, I should be rage quitting, I should be throwing a big hissy fit. This was a blast. What is with this game? Oh, it was so one-sided and I still had a blast. Oh, I enjoy this game. But anyway, we're gonna get straight to the recap because this game is over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
So in the end, like I said, it was a complete defeat for Lord Tremendous. I was tabled on the top of turn 6. I lost everything. I had so much fun doing it. It's actually a little ridiculous. I got to kill Elves. I got to play against Big Tom. I got to try out a list that I truly enjoyed playing. And King's War is a fun game. I mean, it really is. I really didn't think I would be this into it, but I really am. It's a ridiculous amount of fun. So it is what it is. This was a lot of fun, and I can't wait to get another game in. Definitely learned a lot in this game. A lot of things were very obvious to me, especially while doing the battle report. And the number one thing is, I was outplayed at deployment. I had no plan. I have no answer to flyers, and he had 3 of them. I didn't know what I was doing. You could see it in my movement phase. It was ridiculous how badly I played. On the opposite side of that coin, though, Big Tom played his weedy little knife ears beautifully. It was actually very cool to see just how much talent he had playing his ugly, ugly elves. Oh, I am really bad at this game, but I'm having a lot of fun. I'm still learning the ropes, and I gotta pay my dues. And Big Tom just, he made me pay something fierce. He really, really did. Stupid amount of fun. And when I said ugly elves, I didn't mean the paint job. I meant elves in general, because they're ugly on the inside and the out. I realized a lot of things about my army in this game. Like I already said, I have 0 answer to flyers, especially 3 of them. I'm gonna have to do something about that. I do not have a well-balanced army at all. I am very heavy and one aspect only, and that is losing. I am liking the Ogres a lot more than Orcs, and my Orcs army has been disassembled so I could use the parts for my Varangar army, so they won't see them again, and I am enjoying the Ogres more. But I'm going to have to adapt my army, my tactics, and I'm going to have to increase my hatred towards Elves, because through hate, all is possible. But you know what? Even though I got tabled, this was a really fun game against a really fun opponent. Anytime an elf dies, it's a victory for everyone else. And I cannot wait for our rematch. Because, 1, I enjoy playing against Big Tom, and 2, I enjoy killing elves. It's win-win, baby. It's win-win. But that's it. That's going to do it for this one. Battle Report number 7 is officially in the history books. As always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, feel free to put them in the comment section below, and I will get back to you as quick as I can. But as always, thanks.